Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Thank you, Erica Stanish, and welcome everybody to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm your host, Josh Taylor. Good to talk to you again on a Friday evening, also so close to the holiday weekend. But a lot to talk about. Steelers and Bengals tomorrow coming up. Of course, Penguins get their last chance to get a game in before the holiday. They will face Ottawa on the road tomorrow. Some crazy things going on in college football. Is Florida State going to leave the ACC? How much might it cost? Is it even realistic? We'll discuss that. Plus, another big blockbuster free agent deal in Major League Baseball, and it's the usual suspects involved with the LA Dodgers. To help me talk about those things and more, my guest this evening, KDKA's own, granted, she does a lot of different things besides working here at KDKA, but it's Hannah Mears. She joins me this evening. Hannah, let's start with talking about the Steelers here. Of course, there's this game with Cincinnati tomorrow. Oh, yeah, by the way, their playoff future pretty much hangs in the balance. There's problems over here with George Pickens. There's problems here on this side with injuries. They're starting Mason Rudolph at quarterback. Where do you even find a starting point, a foundation point going into this game tomorrow if you're the Steelers trying to get back on track? Because, oh, yeah, by the way, you're on a 3-game losing streak.
I wish I could say it's Jamar Chase being out, but I don't even see this being a huge factor as it would have been if the Steelers offense was performing anywhere near what the preseason expectations were. Especially because, okay, Jake Browning, now you're playing against a backup quarterback. Had this game have been where you have a Kenny Pickett possibly led offense, maybe there'd be a glimmer of hope here, but I can't even say losing Jamar Chase and having a backup quarterback to play against is a glimmer of hope because Browning seemingly has his team on a hot streak. It's almost like he was a breath of fresh air. I know that's weird to say because he's replacing Joe Burrow, and we know how good Joe Burrow is, but he wasn't playing at 100% this season up until his injury. Even early on, he was always playing a little bit bruised, and I think just having someone come in with a chip on their shoulder who had a lot to prove and was at 100% took this team to the level that we had expected to see them at. But here's the thing that's a little bit scary is Jake Browning isn't just passing to Jamar Chase for 100-plus yards every game, especially in these last couple of wins that they stacked because, oh yeah, they're on a 3-game win streak heading into Pittsburgh, who hasn't been able to even sniff the end zone in their losses so far this season. Only one of those games, Jamar Chase had over 100 receiving yards. So Jake Browning is spreading this ball out a lot, and they're finding ways to win, and that should scare the Steelers. So first and foremost, my starting point here is you have to look at the game in front of you. That's the Bengals. I would have thought these were a glimmer of hope in a storyline had we have seen this as the storyline early in the season. If you would have seen this, Josh, and said, the Bengals have a backup quarterback and Jamar Chase is out, this would have been a 100% gift on Christmas to the Steelers. But right now, I don't have a whole lot of confidence at all in this team. And truthfully, I don't even know where to begin to think about a case where the Steelers could win.
I'll amplify your point here. Let's go back to a month ago when this team faced Cincinnati in Cincinnati. This was the first game of the post-Matt Canada era. They had just gone to Jake Browning in Cincinnati, and you saw two different teams going in two different directions. It was no way to expect, or there was no way we could ever expect a month later in December that this is the trajectory that these two teams would be on. One on a 3-game losing streak, the other one on a 3-game win streak. And oh yeah, it's not in the direction you thought it was in. And then not to mention Cincinnati being ahead of the Steelers in the playoff race, just a completely 180 type of approach from what we would have expected maybe a month ago. And I think that kind of feeds in to what we expect to see tomorrow. 412-575-2600 is the number on the Borders and Borders hotline. We will take a break right now. When we come back, we're taking your phone calls. I'm taking your tweets at Josh Taylor HD as well. Got a couple of those already. Stick around. 412-575-2600 is the number. We got Chuck in Uniontown on the line. We got greatness joining us this evening. Chuck, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, Josh. Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, you too.
Along with what you've been saying, this is my question. I was going to ask, will Sidney Crosby ever be the equal of Mario Lemieux? And if not, what is it that keeps Lemieux the better player?
Appreciate the call, Chuck. If I had to say off the top of my head, Sidney Crosby is a different player than Mario Lemieux because Sidney Crosby is a very strong, and I think this is underrated sometimes, he's a very strong two-way player. He does a lot of different things that Mario Lemieux did not do. Now, the things that Mario Lemieux was good at, he was great at. Like, Mario Lemieux was a phenomenal skater, and Sidney Crosby's a great skater. Mario Lemieux was a phenomenal puck handler, and Sidney Crosby's a great puck handler, and he's really good as far as being able to be goaltenders. But Lemieux's offensive game, his ability to score on his own, was the thing that set him apart. Now, both men were really good at setting up teammates. Sidney Crosby's great at doing that. But Lemieux's individual offensive ability, I think, it was on a level that very few have seen in this game in its history. And that's nothing against Sidney Crosby because his game is more complete as far as being a well-rounded player. But Lemieux, just as an offensive threat, was just a force. And not to mention the size that he had. Lemieux's 3-4 inches taller than Sidney Crosby. So you're talking about an entirely different kind of game with an entirely different